on. So first of all, I'm going to start off with Excuse the Hare, because I've been playing with the dogs. But then, you know, you all know me, and I don't even know where to begin. Never mind. It was a bit of a roughy-tufty morning with the doggies. And I say roughy-tufty morning, it is currently 7:30. So, yeah, roughy-tufty morning. Never mind, I won't tell you what time I was up from. Anyway, so we're on page 49. I stopped the chapter a little bit way through. I read on to see what was happening, and I really shouldn't have stopped because we're only 2 pages away from the end. But here we go. Remember, Queen Sycorax has just said, shoot down the door. Not a very nice thing to say about your daughter. Here we go. Arrows rained upwards once more. Put the door in reverse, yelled Tsar. I take it back. She is as bad as I thought. But what on earth is she, Queen Sycorax, doing? Why is she shooting at us? Said Bodleikin, thoroughly bewildered. Has she got totally mad? Well, she's never been exactly a huggy sort of mother, said Wish, but I'm sure there's some sort of perfectly reasonable explanation. And they were about to get that explanation. Bam! A direct hit on the enchanted door by a carefully aimed spear pierced the magic that was delicately holding the jigsaw pieces of the door together. Keep it together, Wish, shouted Caliburn. Think of the door as a complete door. But Wish was not yet sufficiently in control of her magic powers. When taken by surprise like this, the door shattered into 1,000 pieces and the 3 children plummeted towards the ground. That's the end of chapter 2. I'm so sorry. I should have finished it yesterday, like I said. Silly me. Chapter 3. Queen Sycorax is not a huggy sort of mother. They were extremely fortunate that the door was shot down right above Crusher and the running animals. Look out above, cried Crusher, coming to a crashing halt as bits of door rained down. The animals, mad with terror, though they were at the following fire, came to a trembling halt, for they loved their humans. And they ran back to see if they could help. Tsar and Bodkin fell into the branches of a tree, and Wish was saved by all 6 sprites catching bits of her clothes and breaking her fall before she finally fell into the cupped palms of Crusher. Little Squeeze Juice nearly came to an untimely end. He fell out of Wish's hair and was too late to duck a flying fragment of the shattered door that hit him momentarily unconscious, and he would have fallen down into the blazing undergrowth if Tsar had not risked his life by reaching out way too far from the tree and saving him. Crusher then gently extracted Tsar and Bodkin from the tree and put them and Wish on the ground, telling them to climb aboard the snowcats, who would carry them quicker than the giant could run. Run swift, said the giant. Bodkin and Wish and Tsar leapt aboard the snowcats. Fly, cried Tsar, and with great terrified bounds their soft fur blackened and raised in petrified quills. King Cat, Night Eye, Forest Heart, and the wolves and the bear leapt through the dark, dusty rain that was now falling, bits of soft grey ash, and roar! The hot roar of the fire pursued them, mixed with the noise of the warrior hunt. The scream of the dogs, the screech of the warrior horns, the iron sound of the beating hooves as they pounded through the burning forest. Excuse me a second. That was the sound of the new Iron Age, the warrior hunt. The forest was being burnt down so that the warriors could build their forts and their fields and their new modern world. For the warriors argued that the modern way was the right way. Surely, time cannot run backwards, could it? That would be nonsense, and warriors do not believe in nonsense. The forest had to come down so the warriors could move humanity forward in a civilized and forward-looking manner. The giants had to leave because they took up way too much room. The sprites had to die because their habitats were needed to make all things that warriors needed. It was obviously regrettable, but there it was. It was in all the name of progress after all. So all over the wildwoods these hunts were being carried out, with the mad barking of dogs and the shrill crying of horns, and warriors on horseback hunting down the giants or the shining elves, or the long-haired ogres, or the lumpen boggarts. This time it was slightly different, of course, for Queen Sycorax was also hunting down her own daughter. And there she was, right at the front of the stampeding warrior force. For Queen Sycorax always had to be the fastest, ramrod straight on her back of her hunting horse, crying out order, entirely oblivious to the roar of the fire behind her. They caught up with Crusher first. Even with his giant, great strides, he moved slower than the snowcats because he kept on stopping to reassure the trees. Calm in the chaos, he laid his giant hands on an oak, on an elm, on ash, on alder, on blackthorn, on beech, on hawthorn, hazel, holly, on lime and maple, on yew, on poplar and willow, all the dear, soon-to-be torchlight trees, saying, "Do not be afraid, dear trees. The forest will grow again. I promise. I will cherish your descendants. This too will pass." BAM! The warrior hunt was upon him. Queen Sycorax launched her spear first. Crusher looked down with a bemused expression, picking out of his leg as if it were an irritating thorn or needle. The warriors surrounded the giant, confusing him with the clamour of their horns, for giants have very sensitive hearing, and the loudness and the pitch befuddled his ears so much that he lost balance and fell to the ground as suddenly as a great oak struck by lightning. The warriors scattered in all directions as he dropped, and then regathered again around the fallen giant, winding strands of his hair and the edges of his clothes around their weapons, and then driving those weapons into the ground, so that when he opened his eyes, blinking, he was stuck to the earth by a pincushion of spears, axes, and arrows. One of the warriors then rode her horse right up his chest of the giant, rearing it up into the air and punching up her spear in a victory salute, shouting, "Got him, your majesty!" "Very good," cried Sycorax. "Stern and true justice, vengeance, tenacity, unrelenting, drama, unforgiving." These were the names of Wish's 6 elder stepsisters, tall, good-looking, blonde, young women with bulging biceps and golden torques around their necks, heavily armed with spears, axes, and every kind of helpful weapon. "Hunt down your sister and the other 2, ordered Queen Sycorax, adding, "Be careful not to hurt her, mind." Wish's stepsisters nodded, and with great whooping cries they kicked their heels on their leopard-spotted flanks of their hunting horses and galloped off after the retreating snowcats. The stepsisters were excellent warriors, strong of arm, fast of throw, with any softness of heart well drilled out of them. So they very quickly ran down the snowcats. They brought down the sprites with sprite nets so exquisitely thrown that it brought tears to the eyes of their teacher, Madame Dreadlock, who was galloping on a sturdy horse beside them, crying with pride at the brilliance with which her pupils knocked Wish, Bodkin, and Czar off their snowcats in single blows around the midriff, and then entwined them in iron nets. "Call off, you beastly animals," snarled Stern and True Justice, "or I will kill your disgusting sprites." "She means it," said Wish, who knew her eldest stepsister well. Justice was perfectly capable of killing a sprite in cold blood. Wish herself had automatically curled up into a defensive little ball like a hedgehog. Wish's enchanted pins, spoon, fork and key were all attacking the stepsisters, the pins pushing themselves into any soft fleshy bits they could find, but Wish called them off, shouting, "Enchanted things! Snowcats, wolves, bears, keep your distance!" Reluctantly, the iron enchanted objects backed away, but not before Justice grabbed the enchanted spoon, and all of Czar's animals dropped to the ground, growling. Czar started to curse the sisters, but Justice stopped him with a gentle tap of her mace that knocked him out. And then the pleasant young warrior women dragged the 3 children in the nets behind them, back to where Queen Sycorax was waiting, with her warriors beside the fallen giant. The victorious stepsisters gave poor little Wish some good healthy whacks with their mace and spear sticks along the way, just to punish her for getting them all out of this horrible journey into the middle of nowhere. Queen Sycorax's warriors were getting a little restive, looking over their shoulders somewhat anxiously at the howl of the fiery furnace getting louder and louder, hoping that the mother and daughter chat wasn't going to go on for too long, for Mistletoe's sake. But excuse me, Queen Sycorax herself was sitting bolt upright on her horse, apparently unaware of the advancing danger. Her stepdaughters dragged the 3 nets in front of her. "Here she is, the weird little rat," said stern and true Justice, looking ever more odd and weak than ever. "She really is a dreadful, dirty little beast. Do you want us to kick her for you some more, Mother?" "Not now, Justice," said Queen Sycorax, getting off her horse and opening up the net containing Wish with the end of her sceptre. Wish uncurled herself and looked up. Queen Sycorax took off her helmet, and her face underneath the helmet was rather colder and sterner than the helmet itself. As I said before, Queen Sycorax was in a bit of a mood. "Ye broke your promise," said Queen Sycorax grimly, with that awful edge of disappointment in her golden pear drop of a voice. "Ye said you'd return me with me to Iron Warrior Fort, and instead you ran off." "I told you, Mother. Zar and Bodkin and I are searching for the ingredients for a spell to get rid of witches," said Wish, very, very white. "And what you are doing, setting fire to the forest. I think you should calm down and stop overreacting." "Calm down!" raged Queen Sycorax. "Overreacting!" "Look, Wish," said Sycorax. She got hold of Wish's shoulder, turned her round and pointed her finger at a high, mushrooming cloud that was rising above the trees where the dead witch had landed. The cloud was at least 100 feet wide, a nasty sulphurous green and pulsating with a poison that made the spell of Love Denied look like lemonade. "That crater with the dead witch in it will still be poisonous in another 20 years, said Sycorax. "These are witches, not mischievous little curse sprites. There is no such thing as a spell to defeat them. That is pure fantasy and wish fulfillment on your part. Return to the Iron Warrior Castle behind my wall and I'll keep you safe." Sycorax's tone had changed and become coaxingly pleasant. "And Dreadlock here, your beloved teacher, will teach you how to be a proper warrior. Won't you, Dreadlock? And then you'll forget all about this silly little magical business." Madame Dreadlock was sitting like a judgmental walrus on horseback beside Wish's older stepsister, bowed obediently, but shot Wish a look of the purest dislike. Wish was the most unsatisfactory pupil she had ever taught, with absolutely not the foggiest idea of whether the angles of the hypotenuse added up to X or Y, and she couldn't do spelling, however loudly Madame Dreadlock shouted at her. Now, at this point, the author would like you to note that Wish was dyslexic. And of course, they didn't call it dyslexia back in the Bronze Age, but she was, and teachers like Madame Dreadlock weren't very understanding about this, to say the least. "Your trigonometry homework was due last Tuesday," barked Madame Dreadlock automatically, "and I need the door of my punishment cupboard returned in tip-top mint condition." The door the children were travelling on was originally the door to Madame Dreadlock's punishment cupboard, and it would now need rather a lot of work to return it to tip-top mint condition. "Yeah, not now, Dreadlock," said Queen Sycorax hurriedly. "I'm sure you can make allowances under the circumstances." But Wish had had quite enough experience of Madame Dreadlock and her mother's Iron Warrior Fort. She backed away from her mother. "No," she said. "Zar and I are going to show you how wizards and warriors can work together to fight the Watchers." Wish's stepsisters laughed so hard at this they nearly fell over. Queen Sycorax's eyes hardened into stones. "Now she's in for it," said Drama, Wish's sixth stepsister, with satisfaction. "You, a leader!" spat Queen Sycorax, in a voice like an adder strike. "A worm with the flu would make a better leader than you. I have met jellyfish with greater leadership potential. Look at what trouble you've already led your wicked and foolish companions into. Covered in wounds, weaker than you are normally. You haven't eaten for days. You have no friends and nowhere to hide, and I have only just saved you from falling in the talons of the witches. You call this leadership?" Wish flinched. every single poison arrow of a word her mother had said was something which had already been worrying was true. But Queen Sycorax hadn't finished yet. Consorting with wizards and werewolves and other lowlifes, riding beasts, performing magic, I can't believe that my own daughter is so miserably unworthy compared to my stepdaughters, said Queen Sycorax. The stepsisters giggled smugly. You wish, finished Queen Sycorax with magnificent scorn, are an embarrassment and a traitor and a disgrace to your tribe. 6 months ago, a speech like this would have crushed Wish. But that was before she met Zar, and Zar had given her courage, and she found that she was no longer afraid of a mother who was set fire to forests and imprisoned her beloved vegetarian giant with spears and called her horrible names. I am not an embarrassment or a traitor or a disgrace to my tribe, said Wish. Release my giant. Release my friends, Zar and Bodkin, my sprites, my animals, my enchanted objects, and stop the fire. Queen Sycorax stared in astonishment, but she recovered quickly. It is a great deal easier to start a fire than to stop one, said Queen Sycorax. She reached out and grabbed Wish's arm so that she could not put up her eye patch. You are coming back home, whether you like it or not, said Queen Sycorax grimly. This so-called spell of yours to get rid of witches isn't a proper spell. You have to understand that your best hope of survival is to be locked up safe forever. You need to face real life and grow up sharpish. And to help you do that, when we get back home, I'll put your evil banded friends in the deepest, darkest dungeon I can find, and I'll melt down that ridiculous enchanted spoon of yours and turn them into hairpins. Now, Queen Sycorax probably didn't mean that. She'd just lost her temper. But with that last bitterly snapped out comment, I think you can safely say that the mother and daughter negotiations pretty much broke down for a moment. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, moaned Caliburn, for with Wish's arms imprisoned so firmly behind the grim hands of Queen Sycorax, there was absolutely nothing Wish could do. She couldn't reach her eye patch to use the magic eye. Zar was out like a light. Crusher was entirely incapacitated. The sprites and Bodkin were all tangled up in an ironclad net. Justice was looking delightedly at the enchanted spoon, hoping that she was going to be able to melt it personally. The snowcats, wolves and bear were too scared of something happening to Wish, or the sprites to move. Fire was now reaching the edges of the clearing and was heating up the bottoms of the warriors at the back of the crowd so fiercely that only the most iron-strict of warrior training was preventing them from leaping from their saddles, shouting, "Yaroo!" or something similar. Yes, I think you could definitely say that this was a crisis, and we're only at the end of chapter 3, for Mistletoe's sake. And quite a lot had happened already. What with the witch attack and the capture by warriors, it had been a very busy half an hour, what with one thing and another. You have to feel for poor Caliburn in this situation. He was the oldest creature in that clearing, by far, and this really wasn't going good for his old bird heart now, was it? What's going to happen now? Panicked Caliburn. I mean, I'm only a bird. I could peck someone, but I'm not really sure that would help. Would it? And that's the end of chapter 3. See you on Monday. Bye-bye.